Well,
You're
for
muted.
those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, welcome to summer. I am Steven Rothberg. I'm the founder of College Recruiter Job Search Site. And we are here for another episode of the Job Board Leaders Monthly Roundtable, the June 11th version. Guest today is my long-term, William, would I say friend, nemesis? What would be the best way?
Definitely friend.
Friend, yes. Nemesis is probably not the most friendly way of describing it, but
Arch enemy? What?
Yeah, exactly. He's Dr. Evil. He's buried deep in a mountain, and he has a laser. And his colleague Mark Pfeffer is like, yeah, tell me something I don't know.
Good point.
So we are going to be tapping William's brain today about community. Some of you might know my company, College Recruiter. We have a couple of podcasts that we partner with William's company, WRKdefined, on, and we basically record an episode a couple of weeks. One is targeted at high volume hiring. Another one is called the Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast, and we're part of this thing called the WRKdefined Network. And William and I have known each other for like 20 years. So this is just the last couple. But William, for the people who don't know you,
Sure.
Take a minute out, tell them some of the things that you've done, tell them about the WRKdefined network, and then I think we can kind of dig into ideas for building community.
Yeah, I think, okay, so I started in marketing. So I came up through marketing, built a web development agency in the 90s, sold it, built a full service marketing agency from 2000 to 2010, and sold my equity to my partner. It focused on about 2005. It focused primarily on HR and work tech vendors, selling into HR and recruiters. So we got good, if you will, at understanding the buyer of HR tech, work tech. And so we kind of, in order to do so, you got to really understand HR, you got to really understand recruiting. And so I was also the partner that did all that stuff for the agency. So it wasn't a big agency. It wasn't a small agency. It was about 150 employees at its height. And so I actually got to know a lot of HR. I had to understand like the conferences, the magazines, and all the blogs and all that type of stuff. And I fell in love with HR. So I kind of fell out of love with marketing to some degree.
You fell in love with HR. Was this before or after a traumatic brain injury?
Well, the car crash was in 2016. No. The thing is, because I'll set the stage by saying it this way. Marketers are extremely jaded. If you've been a professional marketer for a long time, you're looking at typeface, kerning, thickness of paper. You're judging people on all kinds of things. And I'm already dark enough and pessimistic and cynical enough. I don't need more of that. And what I like about HR, and still like about HR, is they know all the darkness. They know the inequities, the pay inequities. They know the sexual harassment claims. They know all the darkness, yet they're still hopeful.
Uh-huh.
And so I wanted to be around more people like that had hope, because being around marketers, that's not a game that they play. Yeah. And so I fell in love with HR, and so I sold my equity and threw myself into HR and recruiting, and started doing a speaking circuit. And it was nice because going to an HR conference and speaking to a large HR audience and being a marketer, I didn't have to use the rules, or I didn't have to play by the rules that they had. Like, I didn't have to talk like an HR person. And if you know me, you know I don't talk like an HR person. I don't behave like an HR person.
For sure. We had a partnership with Bill Borman's company, the True conferences.
Yep.
And we basically kind of co-hosted or organized a few conferences with him on college university recruiting.
Right.
One of them was in Dallas, basically kind of in your backyard.
Yep.
And when I reached out to you to be one of the presenters,
Yep.
one of your questions to me, which it was hysterical, and so I still remember it, was something like, well, I'd be happy to do it. It sounds really fun. I just want to make sure that it's going to be okay if I drop the occasional F-bomb. And I'd never had anybody ask me that question in like a work kind of a context before. And it was like, yes, not only would it be okay, but I would encourage it because it was for you, that's very authentic. For others standing up in front of a room of 50 people and dropping F-bombs, they would have to really struggle to do that. And so for them, no. What led you into starting WRKdefined? And tell people like what it is.
Ryan and I, along with Mark Pfeffer, we worked at a company called RecruitingDaily.
Ryan Leary for those. Okay.
And so Ryan came up through staffing. So Ryan actually worked a job in staffing, in executive search, and RPO, full gamut. He did all of that, and then when Connexus sold to IBM, he stayed on for about 3 years, and then he had always been doing RecruitingDaily with Noel Coca on the side, but it became his full-time gig in about 2016. And we first of all, we like working together, so we start with some of the basic stuff, like as business partners. If you're ever in a situation where you have business partners, it's everyone goes about this like a marriage, very similar to a marriage. You look for people that kind of fill in the gaps, and Ryan does that with me, and I do that with him. And so starting with that, we did all of our stuff at Recruiting Daily. He was more kind of on the ops side, and then did some sales, and I was on the thought leadership side. So I would go out and go to conferences, go to analyst events, speak, do all that, whatever that stuff is. And so we podcast. I've been podcasting since 2008. So lots of podcasts. And it's one of those deals. I've done all the wrong things in podcast. So like with Drive Through HR in 2010, it was two things that podcasts should never be. One, live. Two, it was daily. We did it Monday through Friday, and I did it for 5 years. I don't know, a lot of episodes later. And we did it on Blog Talk Radio, which was like the worst hosting platform for podcast ever built. But it was early in that game. I've also guested on a lot of podcasts. But when Ryan and I, we were podcasting at Recruiting Daily, and we saw kind of we saw that the content site model of like drawing people to a place and having something special, webinars and white papers and research and blog articles and podcasts. We could kind of see that was nearing the end. And we're like, okay, there's something to podcasting that we like. And the early start of the early stuff was, okay, well, let's just build our podcast. And let's just kind of focus, put our heads down, and build 5 podcasts. And probably 3 months into it, we launched WRKdefined February 15th of 24. And probably the earliest I can remember is a show by Gene and Kate Achille, Up Next at Work, is they reached out and just said, hey, we want to join your network. And I think Mark was right around that time too with People Tech. And so we just started adding shows and learning about what podcast networks are and aren't and can be and all of that type of stuff. So we're at 96 shows now. And they're all about work.
And WRKdefined, for anybody who wants to Google it, WRK DEFINED.com.
Yep.
Right. So you can go there and you can see, kind of like the thumbnails, the cover art for all the different podcasts. All of them, shockingly, are work related.
Yeah.
So we have a couple. Some of them are very few viewers or listeners, right? Maybe dozens, kind of thing an episode. Others are probably typical, hundreds an episode.
Yep.
And then I don't remember, William, if it was you or Ryan, but somebody sent an email to me and the other hosts roughly a week ago. I think you do it like once a month. And it's just kind of like, hey, here's what's going on in the network. Oh, by the way, the show with the most downloads last month was, X, and here's how many downloads.
Right.
And I think those are usually in the thousands. Have you had any in the tens of thousands yet?
Nobody's in the tens of thousands.
Okay.
And the thing is nobody in work. So let's just say that there's about 1,000 work-related podcasts around the world.
Okay.
And work being anything from sourcing to outplacement.
Yeah.
So anything that touches work. And so like belonging and payroll, these are niches within niches within niches within niches. Like
Yes.
nobody's gonna have an audience like Carter Daddy or any of these large show, or even like true crime.
Yeah.
You can put out a very average true crime podcast and you're going to get thousands.
Yeah. Years ago, I was volunteering at a religious organization, and the senior clergy person came up and was talking to me about, events that I was helping to organize, in-person events, and how many people were coming out. Sometimes we'd have 8 show up for some discussion. And if it was like on men's health, we'd have 80 show up. But it was never, well, actually, I think one time we had in a couple hundred, but it was almost always like in the dozens.
Right.
And at times I would get discouraged by that.
Nope.
Like really good, I felt content, very fun atmosphere, get together, have some coffee, have some breakfast, be with a bunch of people that were kind of had similar interests. Why are only 30 people showing up? A congregation had like 2,000 member families, so like 5,000-6,000 people. And what she said to me, the senior clergy person, is that with stuff like this, with content, basically, you can touch a lot of people a little, or you can touch a small number of people a lot.
Well,
So
you shouldn't be touching anybody, Steven. That's
well,
a different show for a different time. But
I have a dog, and he does like scratches behind the ears. So I think we can all agree I'm allowed to do that. But otherwise, yeah, there are maybe some legal limitations or something that we can. But in all seriousness, it sounds like the WRKdefined network. And by the way, for those who are kind of new to the format, in roughly 10 minutes or so, we'll kind of open this up for like very roundtable conversations. People can ask questions, throw in their thoughts, and whatever. But for William, like one of the things that attracted me to your network versus just some very general one,
right,
was the fact that we're all kind of doing more or less the same thing, right? We're trying to help bring candidates to employers and vice versa. Some of us are more at top of funnel, kind of pre-hire, and some of the shows are going to be about managing, and they'll talk about payroll and whatever. I would say that of the 90 or so shows, typical listener might only be interested in 5 or 10. Right. Like if you're an HR manager, you probably cross over a lot of stuff. But if you're like, well, I see Adam Berkowitz up there. Like, I think that Adam is going to be a heck of a lot more interested in recruitment marketing.
100%.
Than he is going to be in like how to safely terminate an employee. But there will be people who will be very much the opposite to that.
Well, the shock for us is payroll. We have 4 payroll shows, and they all do really well.
Interesting.
And it's crazy because I remember adding the first payroll show, like, who the hell's going to listen to payroll? Like, seriously, I'd rather watch paint dry.
We like payroll when we're getting it.
100%.
But it's not the most exciting of topics for most people. But
Can't
for some
imagine
people,
it's their world. It's the 4 walls of their world, and all 4 of those shows get exceptional downloads.
Cool.
The one I was mentioning in that email was Directionally Correct, which is Cole Napper, and the whole show is about people analytics. So first of all, his is quality. He does preps. He does a full episode prep. He does, like it's not completely scripted, but it's well edited, well produced. And again, it's about a topic that pretty much everybody's trying to figure out. So it's got a high consumption rate. A lot of streams, a lot of downloads.
Cool. So after the last episode, I had one of the attendees kind of reach out and basically say to me, I think that guests on these roundtables, that there's no money flowing. Like you're not paying me, I'm not paying you. I just want to be clear, that is the case.
I was under the assumption.
My apologies, William. Sorry. Don't be checking your mailbox for a check because there ain't going to be one in it. So what I'm trying to do with just that is to sort of set the stage for what I want to next ask. This is not a sponsored episode or anything like that. So when you and I and Ryan had conversations about me moving these couple of podcasts over to the WRKdefined network,
Right.
First of all, there are going to be people watching this who have a podcast and who want to learn more. Like, why would I partner with WRKdefined? What are the benefits? What are the downsides? Whatever. They're also, and I think it'd be really good to maybe focus for the bulk of this show for those who don't have a podcast or maybe don't even have a content strategy as a whole. Why should I podcast? Should I write blog articles? Should I post a lot of stuff to LinkedIn? Just sort of community building in general. We're focusing on podcasting because that's kind of your jam right now.
Right.
But it's not the only way of doing this. And you can very much take in all of the above strategy, right? So why don't we start with, I know I kind of threw a couple of things at you there.
Sure.
What for those who have shows or who are very much planning to start, okay, can they do it on their own? Is there a benefit to being part of a network? Is there a benefit to being part of the WRKdefined network as opposed to just some general podcasting group?
I think the thing is, first of all, you ask yourself why before you even, before you write, before you podcast, before you do anything, speak at conferences, etc. Is why? Why is this important to me, and why would I think it would be important to others? I've done all of those things, and at different times it kind of scratched different itches. Podcasting for me, it's easier for me to talk than write. So I wrote for years. I wrote articles for multi-contributor blogs, and for those types of things, and I loved it. I just loved, like, I could just pound out an article in 45 minutes, and it was usually, I say article. I'm going to offend Mark's journalism background here. Really, it's an opinion piece. I was really good at writing opinion pieces, like, why do we do this? I don't understand, that type of stuff. But not journalism, not fact-based, not any of that type of stuff. I never that stuff kind of bores me, so I never kind of got into it, and I'm not good at it. But once I found podcasting, I found that, okay, I could write that article, but I could also have that conversation with somebody else. And then it's the back and forth is actually the juice. And if you're doing podcasting well, you're learning as much as as much as the person that's listening.
Oh, definitely.
So the juice in that is, when you write an article, you write it, you post it, it's done, it's out there. Other people are learning, etc. Maybe in the comments, maybe somebody reaches out to you, but it is very much kind of a one-way communication. Whereas with blogs, especially if you have a guest, it's you're going back and forth
on a podcast.
And you're hammering through whatever the bit is, usually like a topic, and you're going back and forth learning from each other. And then the audience is just basically sitting at the table next to you in Starbucks listening to this. Like, I very much like the voyeuristic conversations that just kind of happen. And they're not overly epic. I don't do well. Like, Ryan laughs at me because, like, when we have ads, I struggle to read ads. Like ad copy. Like, I'm on my 19th take. Like, it's horrible. I'm horrible at, like, let me tell you a little bit about the good people. So I'm not good there. But being on my feet and talking about something, it's theater, it's performance art, it's fun because I like the high wire, and I like being able to just talk and bounce off the other person. They're like, William, that's horrible. That you're wrong. And it's like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Okay, now it just got fun.
Yeah. And so some of the best podcasts that I've listened to in the network are, some of them are for people who actually, the host actually don't have much to say, or at least they don't say much,
Right.
but they're really good at asking questions
Very
and
good at
getting
asking
really good
questions.
content from the guests. Others, it's like, have they ever had a guest?
Yes.
It's like two
Yes.
co-hosts, and they go back and forth with each other, and then it's almost like getting together with for coffee with your best friend once or twice a week, or whatever the
There's a
cadence is. But
So that's
tell me,
format. That's like a show
yeah,
format. Do you want to be, do you want to do kind of a Law and Order type show? Okay, but you want to do it in black and white, or you want to do it based in the 50s? Like you're then trying to figure out like what format fits. You got to make it fit yourself, because the last
yeah,
thing you want to do is create a podcast where it's hard for you.
yeah,
So don't do that. And I've seen this happen where people think, oh, the market really wants this, I'll go do this, yet they're not necessarily equipped, either with the background or the training or even the ideas to then pull that off. So I tell people, when they're thinking about starting a podcast, bring it back to you.
mm,
And you as a listener, what do you like? What do you like? Do you like, someone just kind of talking at you and you listening? Hell, I was talking to Matt Charney a couple of weeks ago, trying to talk him into doing a podcast. And he's just like, he's hated podcasts all his life. But he's starting to warm to the idea. I said, listen, your bit, if you do this, is Andy Rooney. It's the
ah.
best 2 minutes of television a week.
So
You
for
just do
for
you just do
those
your bit.
for
Go ahead.
those who maybe like aren't in the US or North America, or who are young enough to have no memories of like George H.W. Bush being president.
Yeah.
For those who were in that group, so Andy Rooney would get the last, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or whatever,
Yep.
every Sunday, 60 minutes. And his shtick was usually something like, did you ever notice that lollipops, that you can like
Why are
suck on
they
a
round?
lollipop for
Why are they
about
round?
30 seconds, and then after that you're biting it? Don't you just hate that? And it'd be like, why is he talking about? And at the end of the 3 or 4 minutes, you were like, that time flew by.
Yeah.
Because he just had a real gift for taking just
Storytelling.
innocuous things and making them interesting. And I could see Matt Charney doing that, like kind of going off on
Exactly.
whatever bad behavior, and there's plenty of it
Whatever the
in
thing
our
is,
industry,
just
is sort of,
audio,
yeah,
no video. So I'm talking to him. I'm like, listen, don't do a video because you don't want to stare into a camera. Don't
okay,
have guests. You don't need that. And just talk about something it's interesting to you. That's it. And it'll be interesting to others. So
okay.
I'm still working with it. And that gets to the format thing. It's got to fit you so that you feel comfortable doing it. So it doesn't feel like work. Like podcasting shouldn't feel like work.
So I think good case for those who are kind of thinking about generating content to
Right.
bring in visitors, whether it's job seekers or the employers or whatever the audience that you're trying to reach are, versus blogging, LinkedIn posts, podcasting, whatever. Before we sort of open up the conversation, talk about, if somebody's like, okay, I have a podcast, I'm going to start a podcast.
Right.
Can they do it just on their own, not being part of a network?
Of course. Absolutely.
What's the advantage of being part of a network? And I know, I'm kind of asking you to put your sales hat on
No,
right now, but why
I
should
think
people be part of, say, WRKdefined rather than just sort of like some general business network? Because there are loads of them out there.
right. Tons of, I mean, the network really is a community, right? At the end of the day, you're with like-minded people doing like-minded things. And so I think there's some juice to being from host to host and even producer to producer for them to talk. Like, I just lost my mic, or I'm going to do this. I've been hired to do this podcast on the road at this show. I've never done one of those. Well, you can ask that question of ChatGPT, or you can ask that question, of your peers. But asking other hosts, there's an entree there. So one of the benefits of WRKdefined is on the back end is some form of community. We use Slack, which
Yeah.
isn't great, but we use that. We're thinking about looking at other models of like community software. But it's places to share best practices. Like I think it was yesterday I shared a white paper from Signal Awards, which is a podcast awards play. And they basically, the whole bit was super easy read. And it was 10 risks that podcasters had taken. So here was the problem. Here's things got stale. And then they went out and they tried this and took risk. And here's how it paid out. And so I thought that was good to kind of share with a group, because it's like, you know what? If you're thinking you're getting stale with your writing, with your podcasting, with your speaking, etc., then it's time to reinvent yourself. When I was on the speaking circuit, I would have 3 ideas a year, and I would put those into abstract form, and then I would pitch them to pretty much anyone that would listen. And then every year, every December, I would come up with 3 new ideas. Yeah. So I was constantly coming up with new things to then push in front of an audience on the speaking side.
Yeah, you want to have expertise.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have to be the foremost expert, but you have to have some expertise. You have to know what you're talking about, and you have to have some passion around it. And
I think,
you want to kind of share that. Why I'm very much hearing what I would do when I would do public speaking as well.
Right.
I might know a fair amount, or at least enough to be up on stage talking about something, but I might not care at all about it or anymore. And then it's like, no,
you nailed it with passion.
Because it's like, yeah, you got to have the passion. So
you nailed it with passion. I think the thing that's like close to passion is curiosity. Like, I don't think you have to be the subject matter expert. I think you've got to get up in front of an audience and go, I'm curious about this. Here's some things that I've found. Here's some things that baffle me, and I'm not sure why. And like, the audience responds to that, because the audience, if they've ever had that thought, then the audience is like, well, yeah, I'm curious about that too. And you kind of go on a journey together.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's kind of like a lot of things in life. You can fake it for a while, but at one point it's imposter syndrome, or it's fraudulent. So bring it back to yourself. That's the easiest thing to do, is bring the game to you. Like you mentioned cursing earlier. I've been an overcusser since my childhood. So like, I don't even recognize when I curse. Like, I just talk. Like, it's so woven into my vernacular that it's just words. I just talk. So when I'm Catholic, so like when I'm with my priest, I don't change the way I talk. I just talk. And he doesn't care. He's not judging me.
He doesn't throw in like an extra Hail Mary for you.
No, but it's like, it's weird, but it's one of those deals. Be yourself.
Yeah.
People will respect you for being yourself. I think it's people that force some of that shock jock type stuff, and then they're not that person. That you can't kind of reconcile the two. And I tell podcasters all the time, just be yourself. And if you're again, if you're geeky about something, people are going to love that, because you're geeky about something and you're trying to figure it out, and they'll fall in love with that. They'll fall in love with the authenticity of that. They might not like the subject, but they will like and appreciate the candor and the curiosity.
Cool. All right. So that's awesome. Thank you so much, William. What we're going to do for the last half is, and we've been doing this for the last several episodes, open it up for conversation. What I would ask for people to do is, if they're in a noisy environment, or, in the car or something like that, use the chat function. I'll keep an eye on that. I see Jason Gorham's already said hello to everybody, so you can say hello back. Just, put in a question there. Or if you're, and the people who are on screen, it all seems to be that way. If you're in a quiet place, use underneath the videos, you'll see like a little hand icon, hit that, and then automatically Google Meet will kind of, that's going to number it, and I'll just kind of take people in order. You might have a question for William. You might disagree with William. You might have something on your own to share. This is collaborative. It's collegial. Let's go for it. So I see.
Away.
Yeah. So questions. comments. Okay. Adam Berkowitz, you are up. Good to see you, my man. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yep. Good to see you. Thanks. Thanks, gentlemen. So my question is, I just began working for a healthcare job board in the U.S. So we're really all about recruitment, and we focus exclusively on healthcare professionals, specifically in mental health and behavioral health.
On the hourly side or salary? I mean, salary side?
Both, both salary and hourly.
Okay.
We do a lot of clinicians, NPs, therapists, counselors in dealing with mental health.
Right.
One of my tasks, I just came on board as the VP of partnerships, is to get our CEO and founder, Brandon Risasco, who's been in this industry for over 10 years and has the expertise in this healthcare genre. And one of my tasks is get him on podcasts, get him name out there, get him as a thought leader.
Easy.
How do I do that? What do you recommend we do?
So the first thing is there's all kinds of great podcasts out there for him. The thing is creating a pitch, and the pitch is, whatever, John Johnson, 14 years of experience, this, that, and the other. So the bona fides, right? Okay. So we cover that really quickly in about 3 sentences. And then it's like, he would like to talk, or he's an expert in, or he would thinks that these 5 things would be interesting. And so you give them subjects, topics, it doesn't have to be a sentence, but just topics of, what's going on, the state of mental health in Gen Z or Gen Alpha, stuff like that. So you give them topics, and you can either work through a PR firm, or you can do it yourself, and you reach out to podcast hosts, and their emails are all easily found. So like they're looking for content. So Adam, the good news is the people that you would be contacting are looking for content. They're looking for guests. So making that case for, John Johnson, in that case, making that really compelling. He's a compelling person. He's an expert. He would love to kind of bring everyone up to speed in this area. So mindfulness shows, wellness shows, anything mental health related type shows. Like you're looking at thousands of shows available to you, and so building kind of a database of those shows, and then being able to just pitch on a monthly basis. So don't pitch once. If you, we've got a show on the network called Mindful Paths. It's 2 guys in London, and it's all about mindfulness. And so, shocking, not shocking. Yeah. You don't pitch once. That's where a lot of people fail. Is they think, I got that email, John, and then no one followed up. And so you get kind of like, you get beaten with, I've sent the emails, I'm reaching out to these people. You've got to be, you and the people that are going to help you, obviously, you've got to be diligent and persistent. Like I get people that pitch me, they hit my LinkedIn, my regular email, william@tincup.com. They hit my Gmail account, they hit my work account, and then they hit me on LinkedIn.
So I shouldn't be doing that to you every other day.
I take it as, you know what? If you're passionate about getting this person on a show, okay, I feed off of that. Actually, I don't punish people for because you know what? If you really care and you're passionate about getting this person on a show, show it. The people that just do it once and leave, I want do that. But it's easy. It's easier than you think. It's just the structured format of positioning, John Johnson in this way of like your guest, your audience would love both him as a person and the topic, whatever topic you decide.
Yeah, I think there would be 2 separate pitches. Would you recommend the audience being we want to get more awareness and visitors on the practitioner side? Job seekers, practitioners, right. That's kind of one area. And then obviously we want healthcare systems, hospitals, employers That's
Right.
another pitch, right?
Right,
We separate it because
Topics can be similar, but targeted towards them
Yeah.
and what
Okay.
they would care about.
Great.
So
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
yeah,
Sure.
if I can, I'm just going to echo some of what William said and add a 2 cents of my own. I get pitched probably every day.
Yeah.
And I would say that most of them are good. Like I truly do welcome them. They're usually quite well thought out. The format is exactly what William is saying. I am or I represent, kind of thing. And it's like a 2-3 sentence opening paragraph. And so right away, I kind of have an idea like who this is and why they're contacting me, right? If that potential guest has had experience being on podcasts, I want to see that. A huge benefit.
Adam, what was your CEO? What was the person's name?
Brandon Resasco,
Has he-
Resasco.
Okay. Has he been on
Right.
any podcast? Because I'm gonna echo something Steven said.
I do not believe so.
Okay. So when he's on his first or second or third or fourth, that is a part of the pitch. What Steven's saying is if you're basically, he's recently been on ... like a couple links to a couple shows or the episodes. But let's say once he's got to his 10th show appearance, build a Spotify playlist for him. So go into Spotify and build a playlist of him speaking and linking it to all of those things. So then you can just give them a link to Spotify that'll go to a playlist. And the playlist will then show all of his speaking. And then it's like, then they get a sense of, oh, okay. I can listen to him. I can listen to him chopping it up with somebody about whatever the bit is. And okay, well, yeah, this he'd be good. And so, but I'd get to 10 episodes and then I'd build it. And I'll show you mine just so you have a visual, not because I'm trying to get anything or do anything. But like, so this is my Spotify account and this is me guesting on podcast.
And then you can just hit the share and that's brilliant. I don't remember seeing anybody doing this, but boy, as a host, I would love this.
So like, right. So like I mean, it's got, if you want to kill 142 hours of your life, there you go. You've got a playlist. But really what I created it for is keeping track of where I've been and what I've talked about and all that type stuff. You guys see some of Mark's shows with People Tech. But more is when people ask me the question, like, hey, what's your style? I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to spend a whole lot of fucking time talking to you about style. Why don't you just go listen to scan and listen to a couple shows. If you like it, cool. If you don't, cool. Like, it's not every guest is a great fit for every show.
Yeah. So what you're saying, William, about sort of your style and the sort of things that you talk about is really true. And that's important. Where I was thinking about specifically for Adam, with his CEO kind of being new to the game, is one of the concerns that I think a lot of hosts have with people who are not, who have not been guests on podcasts yet, or maybe on just a couple, is that it's probably half of the shows that I have a guest like that on, we have to reschedule.
Right.
They don't show up.
Yep.
They don't understand that the host has actually set aside time and gotten prepped, and it's not just like a show up and have a Zoom call. And if we're 5 minutes late or whatever, it's no big deal. There's a fair amount of prep. Also, we have schedules.
Yeah.
A lot of the shows are like weekly or every other week. And as much as I love talking to Mark Pfeffer, and I do, if he's going to be a guest on my show, or if I'm going to be a guest on his, and I cancel on him last minute, now he's got to scramble to figure out what to do about that show. And does he do just like ask somebody to like jump in? Does he go and find another guest? Does he skip an episode? I mean, it can be a problem. But the other thing too is, please spend maybe $150. That's probably all it is. get a headset or earbuds and make them wear them, and a decent, doesn't have to be a $5,000 mic, but a decent mic. Talking into your computer without a headset or headphones is, for people who are listening audio only, Spotify, Pandora, whatever, it can just be excruciating.
Audio still outperforms video podcast because of where people listen.
Yeah.
So they listen when they're on their runs. They listen when they're, when they're driving in their car. They're not watching per se, but video content outperforms from a scrolling perspective.
Mhm.
So the shorts that come from video podcasts on YouTube Shorts and Instagram and TikTok, those outperform. So it's one of those deals, like you could put a YouTube video podcast of a 30-minute show on YouTube and get, a couple hundred people to watch it. You can put a 60-second YouTube short and you can get 15,000 impressions. So it's on that side, the distribution side, you got to tinker with some things as a podcaster on what works and what doesn't. But the last thing I'd say to Adam is some podcast hosts are very rigid in the sense of they want to plan everything out. They don't want any surprises. It's not an exercise in improvisation. They want to script it out. And the other side of that is podcast hosts that don't want that, don't like that, don't need that, etc. And guests are the same way. So it's kind of finding that right match. If your guy he likes to know the questions in advance, maybe he's got to run them through PR and legal to make sure, okay, all that type of stuff, then he needs to find shows that really like scripted. And that's one of the questions you ask, like, hey, how scripted are we? Can we see the questions in advance, or is that a thing? If it's not a thing, no big deal, etc. Can we edit something out that maybe fumbles on, etc. You're probably not going to get with the shows that are more scripted. They'll tell you all that. They'll tell you, hey, listen, we're going to do a prep call, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to ask these 10 questions, blah, 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 blah. And it just depends. Like, I like improvisational comedy. I've studied it, and I don't like anything scripted at all. Like, I showed up to conferences before with no PowerPoint deck, and I know what I'm going to talk about, and I just talk about it. So, like, that's an extreme. And so I wouldn't suggest that that's going to be for everyone, or even a majority of people. So you got to kind of find out what skills, like what he wants to do, because you don't want to put him in a position where he fails. You want it to be fun for him, so he gets off that podcast, goes, yeah, that was cool. All right, I can do this. I can see myself doing this more. And that's just kind of aligning those things.
Yeah, and there's also a very much a hybrid approach. I was interviewed, I don't know, maybe a month ago, a couple months ago, by Dwayne Lay and Crystal Miller-Lay for GBS Worldwide. Yep. And that was, they well, at least with me, they definitely required a pre-call. Make sure you've got headphones, mic, we know what we're talking about, we're going to be prepared, we're going to confirm that, this is the time and the day and all of that. It was just kind of like making sure that there weren't going to be any major surprises. But they very much did not want to script it. Here's the topic. Here are a few of the themes, but we don't want to give you the exact questions, and we don't want you to prepare the answers ahead of time, because generally that is a recipe for excruciating boredom. I can read and somebody, Jason Gorham just asked too, and I think this is a good question. So Jason from Talent XI in the comments asked, is retention better from listening versus reading? So the people who are our audience members, do they remember what we say better from listening or reading?
I take
any thoughts, William?
Oh, this is 100 years ago, but a guy that I really respected, Jack Hanks, who's a oil guy in Venezuela, and I just got to hang out with him, had made a lot of money. And so he was kind of a mentor. And he said, listen, you're going to get pushed into going to networking events. as a young career professional, it's just going to be one of those deals, and you're going to fight it because it's just not your bag. But here's the deal. If you just meet one person, that's all you have to do. You don't have to meet one person, and you can do something with that person, then the whole thing was worth it. I think that's true in podcasting. If you're listening to podcasts, if you can get one thing from that podcast, you'll listen to it again.
Mm.
It's when you can't. You listen to a podcast, you're like, that just made me dumber. Like I just wasted fucking 30 minutes of my life, and I'm going to shoot somebody today. So you don't want that. You want them to be able to pull something out and say, okay, look, I wasn't thinking about that. That's cool. Okay, and then they can then use it in their lives. So really, you're not trying to get everybody. You want to be able to try and put enough content in front of people where they can pull a nugget out, and that's where I think the guest and your host, that dynamic of going back and forth, that you're going to get something. You're going to get to that one thing and go, okay, and then again, everybody's going to get something different out of the show.
In terms of retention, though, mm-hmm. I think what you're talking about, William, is sort of like learning something, which to me is different than retaining that thing.
Oddly enough, retention comes down to consistency.
Okay, because what I was going to say, and I'm very much just speaking for myself here. I'm not like talking about this is how it is for most people or thinking about any kind of studies I may have looked at, but the podcasts, when I tend to consume content through podcasts, video or audio, it tends to be more of a opinion type of thing.
Yeah.
When I want to find out that, the unemployment rate went from X to Y, I am not going to listen to a podcast for that kind of stuff. That's where I'm going to be going to Google. I'm going to be searching. Sure, Google sometimes surfaces podcasts, but I'm not going to listen to a 30-minute podcast that is telling me like what the unemployment rate is this week. But I will go to a blog article for that.
And I think it's, again, the usage becomes a game of where can you find that content the easiest. And again, if you're looking for opinions, so many people that listen to podcasts are looking for some type of learning or inspiration. Like that, what they make is, if you ever want to keynote speak, or if you ever keynote speak, basically a keynote speaker is three things. It's entertainment, it's education, and it's inspiration. That's it. That's what makes a great keynote speaker. And so the same could be said about podcast host and guest and that dynamic. You're doing a little bit of entertaining, you're doing a little bit of education, you're inspiring people, and so hopefully they get something out of that. But retention is a game of being consistent, and you go back to kind of where all of this stuff came from, TV and radio. It's, if any of you listen to sports talk radio, they're on at the same time every day. They might be talking about something different, but they're on at the same time every day. 60 Minutes is on the same time every Sunday. Like, you just get used to, your audience gets used to a certain cadence, and it becomes predictable. Like I listen to or watch 60 Minutes with my wife. It's on at the same time, but it's never the same. And again, that's what pulls you in. It's like, I know what I'm going to get here. I'm going to get 4 stories and a bit, and I'm going to learn some things that are about 10 years ahead. Okay, great. Fantastic.
Cool.
But that's what podcasts, if you want retention, you play the consistency game and you focus on making sure that people can learn from you.
Cool. We've got about 10 minutes. We've got 3 questions queued up in the chat. If anybody wants to ask a question, do the chat or raise your hand. Ben Groves, now of Tink. Congrats, Ben. By the way, for those who didn't see that, working with the one and only Mr. Chevalier. So Ben had a couple questions. The first one, William, is what's going on with Recruiting Daily and the Recruiting Daily podcast? Are they going to come back out of hiatus?
No. So I left Recruiting Daily in December of 23. Me and the owner, Noel Coco, we just kind of got into a place where needed to go different ways, and I haven't looked back. The site hasn't been updated in a long time, and so would I resurrect those? No, I have enough shows that I don't need to do that. In terms of Recruiting Daily coming back and making it, there's no one there. It's just null. So I don't see that happening either.
That's a bummer. It was
Yeah,
definitely,
it is.
it was, yeah.
Had a,
I mean,
had a good,
that was
had
a
a good run.
It yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And then though, you know, at some point, even good things have to sometimes come to an end. Ben's second question, is it better to be on separate platforms? I think he's talking specifically about podcasts here. Is it better to be on separate platforms rather than building that central repository?
So platforms being Apple, Spotify, iHeart, things like that.
Ben, if you're maybe clarify what you mean by that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey
Hello.
guys. I mean, this was kind of it was in my head after seeing the Recruiting Daily hiatus and whatever's going on there.
Right.
It was more just, are you better off being a guest on multiple different podcasts, or like you've built up yourself, building up a central?
That's a great.
one?
That is a fantastic question. One that I've never actually been asked. And is it better to be on other people's, or is it better to build your own? I think that comes down to what you're trying to get out of it. If you're like in Adam's case for the person that he's working with, they're trying to be on as many podcasts as humanly possible to build up kind of the awareness across a lot of different places. It's hard to do that if it's just yours and you have other guests, because you're not a known commodity. You're basically leveraging other people's audiences. In that first model, it's like they've built an audience. Mark's built an audience on his show. He's built an audience in his Substack and all that type of stuff. You're just basically leveraging his audience. Okay, to build an audience from zero, yeah, not easy. Now, what I would say to Adam about his podcast strategy in general is, I would actually get 10 episodes in and create a podcast.
Wow.
So I would actually go and do both. So I'm going to go and be on as many podcasts out there and leverage as many audiences as humanly possible. And at the same time, have a place for those people to also be guests on my podcast. And
I'm glad that you mentioned that last piece, William, because that's a very common strategy within the WRKdefined community. One of the nice things that I see on Slack.
Oh yeah.
I in that Slack group, it's got to be at least 2 times a week, probably 3, maybe even 4.
Oh yeah.
Somebody will post, I'm looking for a guest for, Thursday, June 17th or whatever it is. Or sometimes it's even, I'm looking for a guest to talk about blank suggestions. And inevitably you'll get like 3 or 4 people just that I can see, and I don't know what the direct messages are, like raising their hands, Jackie Clayton. Oh, I can talk about that.
100%.
Whatever it might be.
And you always know, like when you've had a guest on there, like we had the guy, I can't remember his name right now, but he was like lights out fantastic. And so we get done with the show and Ryan and I are like still on the call going, what just happened? Like this guy was absolutely, and so we tell people about him. Like we forward the episode to people, and like, if you're looking for a real cool entrepreneurial guy who took a company public from zero to public, this is your guy. This because he is like, it just comes out of the call, out of the screen, who's so good. And so everybody's got those. Every podcast host has those guests where they're like, wow, this person needs to be on more podcasts. And so you see a lot of that in the background of Slack too.
Yeah.
You see a whole lot of that, like people basically saying, this person, if you haven't had them on your podcast, you're missing. You should.
Yeah. And like one that comes to mind for us in the High Volume Show, we've had him 3-4 times, is Trent Cotton with iSense.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's just ridiculously gifted.
You can just hit play and ease back.
Oh yeah, it's like talking to your favorite uncle, and it's just like drinking from the fountain of wisdom. Gabrielle asked about whether you recommend having a transcription or summary of the podcast contents to attract people looking for direct answers to their questions. And I suspect what he's referring to, and we do it with these roundtables, is that we generate a transcript and we post that.
Right.
Google, and to the extent that there are any other search engines now that actually drive any kind of traffic to your site, it's easier for them to see the written word than to decipher the spoken or video. I mean, they do both, but
Right.
but text is easier for that. Your thoughts about William transcript, no transcript?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I've built a ChatGPT prompt. It can be used for anything, but it's a prompt that takes a transcript and builds what you need inside your show notes. So you need a description, you need 10 takeaways, you need timestamps, you need keywords to be AI search friendly.
Mhm.
Amazon's working on tech right now that actually gets to the timestamp. So if you're talking about leadership in the grocery industry, and that was at 17 minutes and 3 seconds in your show, it doesn't go to the show, it doesn't go to the episode. Alexa will go right to the timestamp.
Wow.
So it's very important in YouTube. It's very important to be optimized in YouTube for the search that happens in YouTube. With AI, it's scanning all these shows, and if your transcripts are shit and your show notes are shit, turns out you're not going to be found.
Yeah.
And so it becomes just like the old-fashioned SEO game. It is a game of being found. And so if anybody wants that prompt, just email me. I'll send it to you, and you can edit it, make it. But it's a game of making your podcast and the podcast notes AI friendly.
Yeah. Two more quick questions, both from Jason Gorham. I'm going to take them out of order because I think it just the way the conversation's going, it makes more sense. The Slack channel that I keep mentioning, and thank you for indulging me on that.
Sure.
Is that only for those who are part of the WRKdefined? Okay. So then the answer to Jason was basically, can we get access to it? The answer is absolutely yes. Create a podcast to be part of the WRKdefined network.
Yeah.
William at WRKdefined.com, WRK. There we go. And there's the email in the chat.
I did put that in there.
Yeah. Last question. Jason is asking, is it for sale? I think he's referring back when he posted it. I think we were talking about like the RecruitingDaily.
I think it is, Jason.
Okay,
I think
so
Noel told,
reach out to Noel. Okay.
Yeah, Noel told Ryan just the other day that 2 or 3 people have walked the dog, but no takers so far.
Okay.
And it's a great search engine optimization play because it's 7,000 articles, so you can imagine it comes up pretty high in search ranking for anything. So I think it's worth buying, even if you're not going to continue it, but just for the depth of content that's there. Yeah, I think it's a great play.
Okay. Now, the depth of content, though, does that mean that they would exclude anything that you've written, or?
I don't think so. I mean, they might.
Wouldn't that be a net negative? I mean,
it's no hate. It is for sale, I'm sure.
Okay.
But it would definitely contact Noel Coca.
And it kind of seems to me like it's just sitting out there.
It's
so
just,
I mean, I don't know him well, but my suspicion is if he felt like it was in good new hands,
right.
And maybe there were a few dollars attached to it, then he would probably be more than happy to at least entertain an offer. Otherwise, it's just going to sit there. I did that kind of thing years ago.
It's a depreciating asset.
Yeah, I bought somebody's blog and they had like 3,000 articles on it, and he was just going to be basically turning out the lights on it.
Right.
But it was great content, so it found a good new home.
100%. Good redirect.
Yeah.
Jason, reach out to him on LinkedIn and or his RecruitingDaily email, which is just Noel at RecruitingDaily.com.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely.
So we're out of time. Thank you so much for everybody who's joined. I'll be sending out the calendar invite for the next episode. We do these on the second Thursday of each month at 11 a.m. US Eastern. So the next one is going to be, I'm just advancing my calendar here. Should have had this done ahead of time, but it is Thursday, July 9th, 11 a.m. Eastern. Our guest is going to be the Indeed Whisperer, Jim Durbin.
Oh, cool.
Indeed just dropped what we all thought was going to be huge news yesterday. It turned out to be somewhat interesting. But knowing Indeed, There'll be something much bigger to talk about before that show. So
I call Jim Durbin because he lives here in Dallas and we see each other a lot. So I just combine his names into one and just Durbin. No, he's a great guy. You talk about a very intellectual, thoughtful person. He's
Yeah.
a really good guy. Yeah.
Extremely. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, this has been it's been my pleasure to host these, and I look forward to many more months. Cheers, all.
100%.